Hi guys, welcome to another live. I'm very excited to have you guys here today. In this live, we're gonna be reading Genesis chapter 11. If this is your first time watching one of my lives, welcome. We do lives about Bible studying and Bible reading. So we do lives on Tuesday about the New Testament, and Fridays about the Old Testament. So today is Sunday. It's a very special live. I decided to make a live today about the Old Testament. But yeah, we basically study the Old Testament and the New Testament from Genesis all the way to Revelation. So yeah, we are gonna start today by reading chapter 11 of Genesis. If you're interested in chapter 10, chapter 9, chapter 8, I recommend you guys watching the last lives. I do them in order. So from Genesis 1 all the way to what we're doing right now, which is Genesis 11. So yeah, I hope you guys like this live, and yeah, let's get started. So as you guys already saw in the title, we're gonna be talking about the Tower of Babel. So this is where all the languages started, the origin of languages. It's very interesting, right? So yeah, let's start reading this because obviously Adam and Eve, they spoke only one language. They only spoke one language. And how did all the languages came to be? So we're gonna be talking about the origin of languages in this life. So languages come from the Tower of Babel, which Babel means confusion. That's what the word Babel means. It means confusion. So basically, the Tower of Confusion. So yeah, let's keep reading so you guys have an understanding of what we're talking about. So chapter 11 of Genesis. It says, "Now the whole world had one language and a common speech." So let's pay attention to this part, because like I said, if you want to read the Bible, I recommend you reading the Bible from the beginning all the way to the end. Never skip a part, because you're not gonna understand. If you open the Bible in the middle, you're not gonna understand what it's talking about, because the Bible, it's a history book. Basically, it's a book about the history of the world, of humans. So Genesis 1 talks about the creation of the world, and then from then the next story is about Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, and then Noah's flood. And then yeah, so basically the last lives that we already did, we spoke about Noah's flood, which is in, I believe it's like chapter 7, 8, and 9 of Genesis, like around those 3 chapters. So yeah, this is after Noah's flood. So after Noah's flood, remember that Noah went into the ark with his wife and his 3 children, well, his 3 sons, and with their wives, basically. So his 3 daughters-in-law, basically. And then from there, from those 3 kids of Noah, that's how all the world began to increase in numbers, began to get more population, right? So this is the next important story after Noah's flood, which is the Tower of Babel. We're gonna be reading about this. So right here, chapter 11, verse 1, it says that the world had one language and one common speech at that time. Obviously, because it was the language that Noah and his family spoke, right? And it's the same language that Noah's descendants were speaking at that time. And it's the same language that Adam and Eve spoke, obviously, because the language didn't change after Adam and Eve until this point. So yeah, basically they all spoke one language, which was the same language that Adam and Eve spoke, which this language is called the Adamic language. It makes sense because it's Adamic language, so it makes sense. So that was basically the first language of our whole history in Earth. So yeah, let's keep reading. It says, "Now the world had one language and one common speech. As people moved eastward, they found a plain in Shinar and settled there." Sorry. "They said to each other, 'Come, let's make bricks and bake them thoroughly.' They used bricks instead of stone and tar for mortar. Then they said, 'Come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we will be scattered over the face of the whole earth. So basically, these group of people, they wanted to make a name for themselves. So basically become famous for something. And in this case, they wanted to build a tower that would reach the heavens, right? And it says that the Lord came down to see the city and the tower that the people were building. Then the Lord said, if as one people speaking the same language, they have begun to do this, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. So basically, God was saying, okay, they all have one purpose, which is making this tower. And if they all can understand each other, that means that they're gonna be able to like build this tower, right? So it says, if as one people speaking the same language, they have begun to do this, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. Come, let us go down and confuse their language so they will not understand each other. So basically, God confused their language so that they would stop building this tower. So God wanted them to stop building the tower. And what did he do? He confused their language, because if they couldn't understand each other, that's how they would stop doing what they were doing, right? Because they wouldn't understand what one of them was trying to build, and you know what I'm trying to say, right? So yeah, basically that's what happened. It says that the Lord confused their language so they will not understand each other. So imagine if there was like 1,000 people building oh my gosh, sorry. That's the fire alarm. Imagine if there was 1,000 people building this tower. That means that there was around 1,000 languages that God created at that time, because he wanted to confuse their language, right? So it says, but the Lord, it says, so the Lord scattered them from there over all the earth, and they stopped building the city. That is why it is called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of the whole world. So Babel, the word Babel means confusion. That's why it's called the Tower of Babel, the Tower of Confusion, because there the Lord confused the language of the whole world. From there the Lord scattered them over the face of the whole earth. And it says in verse 10, this is the account of Shem's family line. So basically, we are talking about another topic after this, which is Shem, which is very important because we're going to be reading about the father, Abraham. Everyone knows about Abraham, Jacob, and how, Isaac, and then Israel, which is Jacob. How the Israelites came from Abraham, right? How Jewish people comes from Israelites, the Israelites come from Isaac, Isaac comes from Abraham. So basically, Abraham comes from Shem, which is one of Noah's sons. So that's why after the Tower of Babel, in verse 10, it's talking about Shem's family line, because we're gonna be looking at how from Shem we reach all the way to Abraham, which is basically, like, I don't know how many generations. Let's read. It says, this is the account of Shem's family line. 2 years after the flood, when Shem was 100 years old, he became the father of Arphaxad. So this is very important because it's talking about Shem's family line, right? So Shem is one of Noah's sons. So remember that, like I said before, Abraham comes from Shem, Isaac comes from Abraham, and then Jacob comes from Isaac, which is Israel, right? And then Jewish people come from Isaac, and from Israel in this case. So Jewish people come from Abraham. And if Abraham comes from Shem, that means that Jewish people come from Shem also. That's why when the Holocaust happened, Hitler, who hated Jews, he is considered an anti-Semitic, right? Because he's against Semitic people, descendants from Shem, Semitic. That's how the word came to be, which is very interesting. So yeah, so that's why this is the family line of Shem, which is all the Semitic people, or the let me find out. Yeah, like the Semitic civilization, basically. So it says that, well, Shem's son is Arphaxad. And then it says that when Arphaxad had lived 35 years, he became the father of Shelah. And after he became the father of Shelah, Arphaxad lived 403 years and had other sons and daughters. Then Shelah lived 30 years, and he became the father of Eber. And after he became the father of Eber, Shelah lived 403 years more, and then had other sons and daughters. When Eber had lived 34 years, he became the father of Peleg. And after he became the father of Peleg, Eber lived 430 years, and had other sons and daughters. When Peleg had lived 30 years, he became the father of Reu. And after he became the father of Reu, Peleg lived 209 years, and had other sons and daughters. When Reu had lived 32 years, he became the father of Serug. And after he became the father of Serug, Reu lived 207 years and had other sons and daughters. When Serug had lived 30 years, he became the father of Nahor. And after he became the father of Nahor, Serug lived 200 years and had other sons and daughters. When Nahor lived 29 years, he became the father of Terach. And after he became the father of Terach, Nahor lived 119 years and had other sons and daughters. After Terach had lived 70 years, he became the father of Abraham, Nahor, and Haran. So it says that Terach was the father of Abraham, Nahor, and Haran. So this is where we're going to be stopping in today's live. The next live is going to be about Abraham and his family. So we're going to start reading about Abraham's story, Abraham and Sarah, Abraham and Ishmael, Isaac, etc., and how the Israelites came out to be a whole country, basically. So yeah, we're gonna start reading that in the next live, and we're gonna start reading basically the story of Abraham. So I just wanted to mention this at the end of this live, which is like the family line of Shem until the family line from Shem all the way to Abraham. So in that way we have an understanding of who Abraham is and where he comes from, right? And then the next live, which is gonna be on Friday. Well, next live is going to be on Tuesday. We're going to be talking about the New Testament. And then Friday, we're going to be talking about the Old Testament, which is Abraham's story. So yeah, guys, I hope you guys like this video. I hope you guys enjoy this live. And if you like it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and click on the notification bell so that you know every time I upload another live and another video. And I'll see you in the next live. God bless you all and take care. Bye.